In this video, I'm going to try to explain my understanding of what a prophet is and part of what their role is, okay? And to do that, I'm going to use my iPad again, and let's see how this goes. I'm going to try to make this interesting. Now, let's imagine a person who has some experience of God, of the divine, of infinity, something that brings them to the brink or the precipice of their own awe and wonder, and it leaves them with this profound sense of faith, right? Anyways, let's draw a little flame of faith. That's terrible, right? Let's actually add some color to it too. And actually, let's make some yellow. Okay, now that's the flame of faith. And someone has an experience. So this flame we can also call just an experience. And what happens is someone might have an experience of God where they have this experience, and so they come back to their community and they protect their flame like this with a story. And so they come back and they tell the story of their experience of faith. And what can happen, let's say I had some profound experience on a beach at sunset, and it brought me to this moment of awe and wonder. Well, I come back and I tell that story, and then other people are like, well, I want that same experience. And so around it happens another layer of ritual, where all of a sudden now other people are trying to repeat my experience, hoping that they can have the same experience for themselves, some flame light up like that, okay? And so over time, let's say I move away, pass on, something like that, but the ritual is still continuing. For some people it works, and for other people it doesn't. And so there becomes this profound ritual of going to the beach at sunset, which is wonderful. I agree. But then over time, there can be a group of people that rise up to protect that ritual, who say, all right, we do it at 6 p.m. We leave this place, and we walk across the street, go over the dunes, and then we go watch the sunset. And let's call that priesthood. I know this is very sophisticated, right? But the priesthood then gets built up to protect the ritual for the next couple of generations. Then, over time, the priesthood then gets even further codified and made into a system. So then we start to have the institution. Now, the institution is there to protect the priesthood, who protect the ritual, who protect the story, because they say they're about the flame. But here's the thing, is the institution can become so interested in its own self-preservation, and the fact that it's been going on for decades or centuries or millennium, they're so invested in protecting the livelihood of the priests and the priesthood and their respect in the community. And so they also are very distant from the ritual and the story and even the flame, although they say to still be about it. Now, here's where prophets come in. Because a prophet is right here, another little stick figure. A prophet can rise up from completely outside of the system. And from there, they can speak sometimes a very harsh word that says the institution does not care about the flame as it should. The priesthood have lost the plot. The ritual, it's not even really about the ritual. And the story that the ritual points towards, the prophet isn't even necessarily attached to the story because they're interested in, boom, that flame. They want people to have that type of experience. They want every individual to find their own sunset-like experience. And as a result of that, they are in no sense very, they stir the pot because they're very invested in the flame. They're very invested in the experience. And they can kind of cut through or side skirt all of these things to get back to the core of what it was always supposed to be about, that perhaps the story forgot, that the ritual got in the way of, that the priesthood became too staunchy about, and the institutions just make decisions based on their own self-preservation. It's very rare for an institution to recognize that it's not really serving the experience of faith, and so therefore to close up shop. And so the prophet, while they are completely right in what they say, they can often be killed for it. And as a result, the institution might try to silence or scapegoat the prophet. The priesthood might not know what to do with it, but there might be some people in the priesthood who maybe know the prophet's right. The prophet's right. The ritual doesn't know what it's doing because it's just a ritual. And then the story, and then back to the flame. That's interesting. Now, one thing to pay attention to is that the story, the ritual, the priesthood, the institution, they all have good motivations. But the thing is, over time, each of them can become more and more distant from what the thing is actually supposed to be about. And so for that reason, there's always a need for prophets who rise up from outside of the institution, who maybe were trained by it or were not trained by it, who maybe got the institution's validation, the priesthood's validation, they know the intricacies, maybe they don't. But the thing is, the prophet is the one who maybe is the most able to speak the truth because they are, in a sense, separate, but in a sense, they're actually just trying to be radical in the sense of the Latin word radix means root. And so prophets are often just trying to get back to the root of what the thing is. This is why if you were to read the Hebrew scriptures, there's so many passages about do away with your noisy assemblies, do away with all of these things, because it pains the ears of God, and God hates our worship if we are not practicing justice. And so right there, a lot of the prophets side skirt around all of the layers to try to point back to what the thing always is supposed to be about. And so for us, what we have to do is constantly ask, is this serving the flame or not? Is this helping the experience of faith? Is this helping people have an experience of awe or wonder or joy before the infinite mystery that we call God? And a great question is, who are the prophets today? Because there's a difference. So many people think that prophets are ones that are the doomsayers for other people. That they are the doomsayers, saying that God is against you if you're not a part of the institution, priesthood, if you don't protect the ritual and revere the story. No, actually, prophets were hated because they spoke against their own leadership. It's not that they spoke against other religions' leadership. It's that they spoke against their own, for when their own have lost the plot. And again, that's why prophets are killed, and that's why it's so important for us to ask, is this person a troublemaker unnecessarily? Or is this person over here actually being somewhat prophetic and just trying to point all of us back to the root of it all if we dig down past all of the layers? So, I hope this made sense. This is just a little theory that I've been working with for maybe a year or two. I hope you enjoy it. All right. I hope it explains some things for you, and I hope it helps you to validate the prophet in your midst, should you ever come across one. Cheers.